Cybersecurity is the practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks, and data from malicious attacks. It's also known as IT security or electronic information security. With the increasing number of cyber attacks, such as email and internet fraud, identity fraud, theft of financial or card payment frauds, cyber extortion, and for that matter, even cryptojacking. These are some of the various reasons why we have gathered here today on this splendid morning. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire NorthCap University fraternity, I, Priyanshi Kathuria, welcome you all to the International Conference on Cybersecurity and Forensic Sciences 2021 in collaboration with Springer, our publishing partners. ICCSDF 2021 is a two-day conference starting from the 3rd of April, going on to the 4th of April. It's an international conference which aims to bring together leading academic scientists, researchers, and industrialists to exchange and share their experiences and research results in all aspects of cybersecurity and digital forensics. With this conference, we aim to encourage the community of multinational researchers to showcase the research work done in the field of cybersecurity. The conference has provided opportunities for researchers to learn about the latest developments through scientific information interchange in the field of cybersec and digital forensics. The conference will also include keynote lectures and panel discussions by eminent speakers and industry people from different areas as we proceed. We received a massively large pool of entries from not just India, but all across the continent. And we accepted all the papers, and they will be published by Springer in its book series called Lecture Notes on Data Engineering and Communications Technologies. It's indeed a splendid morning, and the event is all the more special for us today because it is being graced by our Honorable Chief Guest, Sir, Dr. Gulshan Rai, former National Cybersecurity Coordinator at the Government of India. Before we proceed with our conference, we must first remember and offer our prayers to the ultimate knowledge giver, the one who is the provider of the boons, the goddess of knowledge and success, Goddess Saraswati. I'd like to invite Pro-Chancellor Sir, Professor Premrat, Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor H.P. Raghavendra, Dean Sir, Professor Ahuja, Chief Guest Sir, Dr. Gulshan Rai, our keynote speakers for today, Dr. Gregory Conti and Ms. Vandana Sehgal, and Head of Department Computer Science, Dr. Kavita Khanna, to please virtually light the holy lamp and commence this conference. Thank you. This event could not have been possible without the tireless efforts and dedication of the entire team of ICCSDF and our esteemed faculty members. First, Dr. Kavita Khanna, Head of Department Computer Science, always there to guide the entire team. Dr. Mehak Khurana, convener of the International Conference on Cybersecurity and Forensic Sciences 2021, and Dr. Pooja Sapra, co-convener ICC SDF 2021. Professor Prem Brat is the Chairman Board of Governors of Indian Institute of Technology, Dhanbad, with additional charge as Chairman BOG of IIT Mandi. An outstanding academic, Professor Prem Brat is the Pro-Chancellor, Professor of Eminence, and Chief Mentor at the NorthCap University, Gurugram, formerly known as the ITM University. Just prior to joining ITMU as the Vice Chancellor back in September 2011, which is indeed a long time back, Professor Vremrath was also the founder director at IIT Roorkee. He was also a part of UP Technical University Lucknow, which is now known as APJAKTU. He was a professor at Head Center of Management Studies and coordinator applied systems research program and director officiating at IIT Delhi. Professor Vremrath is an honorary research fellow at the Department of Engineering Production, University of Buckingham, United Kingdom, and an international visiting fellow at University of Western Sydney, Australia. He has extensive experience of more than 52 years in teaching, research, management development, and consultancy. He has published more than 502 research papers in reputed journals and proceedings of international and national conferences. His research papers have received more than 8,048 citations, with G-index of 88 and maximum citation of a paper as 1,563, as per Google Scholar. That's not me, that's Google. He has authored and also co-authored 7 books and completed 5 sponsored projects and 36 consultancy assignments. His book, Productivity Management, A System Approach, received awards from DMA as well as ISDT. His book, Materials Management and Integrated Systems Approach, published by Springer, is available worldwide on print and ebook version. He was conferred with the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 18th Annual International Conference of the Society of Operations Management at IIT Roorkee in December 2014. Rethink India conferred on him the Visionary Edu Leader of India Award on the 11th December 2017, given by the former president, Sri Pranab Mukherjee. The list of his awards goes on and on, so I think I'll put a full stop right there. Yeah. And without further ado, I'd like to request Pro-Chancellor Sir to please come and say a few words and please address the audience.
Thank you, Priyanshi Kathuria. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and our very distinguished chief guest, Dr. Gulshan Rai, former Chief Information Security Officer at the PMO. Our keynote speakers, Dr. Greg Conti and Ms. Vandana Sehgal. The head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Dr. Kavita Khanna. Convener of this conference, Dr. Mahek Khurana, and co-convener, Dr. Pooja Sharma. Our Dean Academic, Professor Swaran Ahuja, distinguished delegates to this conference, faculty members of NCU, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to welcome you to this inaugural ceremony of the International Conference on Cyber Security and Digital Forensics 2021. Although being held in virtual mode, but I do hope that its effectiveness would not be very much inferior to what it would have been if it was in real mode, because we would have then had the pleasure of welcoming you all on our campus, and maybe the interaction would have been far more powerful. But never mind. Given the circumstances of the situation, this virtual conference, I'm sure, is a very timely conference because, as mentioned by Priyanshi Kathuria, a very able compare of this inaugural session, the topic of cyber security and digital forensics indeed is a side effect of the technology not being practiced with values and professional ethics. I've been saying all through when I was Vice Chancellor of UP Technical University, Lucknow, as for the first time in the technical university system, the country had introduced a compulsory audit course. That means without that, nobody will get the degree of BTech, MBA, pharmacy, or whatever, without a compulsory course on human values and professional ethics. And I'm happy to say that this was such a successful program that 7 or 8 other technical universities in the country replicated that initiative, and including the Royal University of Bhutan. And now AICT has made it mandatory for all engineering colleges. And the reason for that was very simple, which indeed the reason for holding this conference. I believe that the not value neutral. The same technology can be used to service the society, but due to unethical practices, highly self-centered human lust, the same technology can be used for the annihilation of the society. And therefore, the negative side effect of what we call as cyber security or cyber crime is the outcome of the cyber physical systems technology, which is an outstanding boon for the mankind. But the crooks have also been able to use it for creating severe problems to the society. And this indeed, once we had taken a project with Department of Electronics when I was in IT Delhi way back, I think was in the towards the late 90s, when this concept of we use Delphi technique for information superhighway. And at that point in time, perhaps we were so much uh, uh, positive about the information technology that we didn't think of it earlier, the kind of issues that it may raise. I had raised in my one of my presentations the analogy of the information superhighway, what it was called then, and the problems that we face in the real in the highways and expressways in the country. And almost all those problems of the apart from the uh, uh, crowd, uh, these robberies, the congestion, delays, all those problems that we see, because analogy helps us a lot in foreseeing problems which might not have been very easy at that point in time. And way back in 96, 97, I'm not, when I did this presentation, I said that we can foresee the problem of the information technology would have by looking at the problems that we're only seeing on the highway robberies, and therefore many of those things are now we are seeing indeed the subject of the cyber security and digital forensics. It seems to have become far more pronounced compared to the conventional, because what's happening, many people, old timers like me, are very scared in using internet banking, are very scared in using ATM. What is it? It's because I'm scared that due to a small error of judgment or a small lack of care, my entire earnings of the whole lifetime can be smashed by some unscrupulous crook. And that's why this subject has become extremely powerful. That's why I compliment the department for taking this initiative, and we thank Dr. Gulshan Rai. He has done an outstanding work in this area, and I'm sure we are privileged to have his presence, and the delegates will be very lucky to have his speech, apart from the two very outstanding keynote speakers. Now, therefore, the issue that we are raising, and because of which we are not really fully tapped the potential of cyber physical systems, because this negative side effect, and that's where the subject becomes very critical, because we need to contain the side effect, which sometimes can be far more injurious than the main effect, the positive one, and hence the relevance of this conference. But at the same time, I'd like to mention that many times our methods and techniques are trying to follow the crookery being committed by unethical people. And hence, I will invoke what is in systems thinking known as Ashby's law of requisite variety, which says that in a complex system, it's impossible to have 100% control, because in order to have 100% control on the system, as a system designer, you should have far more number of options available than the possible state in the system can exhibit itself. Now, extending it to the cyber crookery, and I must mention that the cyber crooks are not unintelligent people. They are very sharp mind. You design any system, they'll find a loophole into it. And therefore, right now we have been only reacting to what possible novel ideas they may have to crack the system. But unless we also proactively design our technologies to foresee a potential problem that this technology may be misused, perhaps a perfect control on cyber crimes will not be feasible. At the same time, I believe that our conventional criminal oriented police force is very weakly trained for cyber security or cyber crimes, because in fact this is an area that as a country, because if crime is committed, it has to be followed on a legal framework. And unless our police force is trained in handling these crime cases with the same degree of proficiency for which they're conventionally trained, and unfortunately in India at least I can say that the extent of training of our law and order machinery in handling cyber crimes is relatively weak, and that's why the people are more the crooks are more and more enthused because it's very difficult to catch them, and that's why we also need to simultaneously step up the efforts in training the people who are responsible for the maintaining of this kind of crime, and that's why the issues like data piracy, data theft, data security, uh, morphing the pictures, robbing of the accounts, hacking, all those side effects, fraud, are so scary, which indeed is limiting the potential positive applications of information technology and computer systems. And therefore, in that context, it's an extremely timely conference. I'm very also happy to say that this conference being organized with a very strong quality focus. I was told by Dr. Kavita Khanna that about 250 papers were received, out of which only 50 papers are being accepted for presentation, which will then go into the book of lessons be published by Springer. And as a result, it almost takes out 20% acceptance rate. In a conference having 20% acceptance rate of papers, to my mind, is a very strong quality check. And one of the incidental check that I was making through the list of these papers, that perhaps only 3 papers are in this 50 are included from my own university here, because normally there is a tendency that the host university tends to push in many of their own papers in conferences like this, and to that extent it further, and therefore I'm very happy that very good quality papers have been included in this conference. I'm sure that the kind of deliberation that will take place in these 2 days will be very, very exciting and would open new vistas for taking care of this serious problem that's impacting the mankind, and to that extent limiting the applications of this very powerful potential tool of physical system. My very best wishes for the success of this conference, and my gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Gulshan Rai, and the 2 very eminent keynote speakers, Dr. Greg Conti and Ms. Vandana Sehgal. I'm sure, and there are 2 more in the validity session. With these observations, I welcome you once again and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, sir, for such amazing words, for taking us through a little part of your own journey. Well, today, before I go on, we have also been joined very recently by Mr. Shri Partha Sarthi. He's the leader South Asia Cyber and Strategy Services, APAC Cyber Innovation at Deloitte. So it is a keynote speaker for tomorrow. So welcome, sir. We're very happy to have you. Now, moving on. Due to an underlying commitment, Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor H.B. Raghavendra will unfortunately not be able to join us today, but he will be joining us tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that. And before we proceed, let me take you on a short tour to a place I, as a student at NCU, consider home. Ladies and gentlemen, the Computer Science Department of the NorthCap University is here to show you a short glimpse of what 2020 was for us. So, can we have the video, please?
For International Conference on Computational Intelligence and Data Sciences 2019.
It's a conference of very high degree of repute because only 275 papers have been accepted out of 900.
The NorthCap University is one among the most reputed universities.
Application award every year is happening around 31,000.
chat box. We have gone ahead and we have even taken queries through email, messages, phone calls as well.
The first tool is Quizlet. Quizlet, as I said, is an online education tool.
I don't know how many of you have ever done a self-test exam, but honestly, I had never ever done it. Cancer somehow looked like a very filmy bimari to me always, like.
When you meet you, how would you feel?
A very high math class. Going to be extremely high graph.
Overall, my experience at NCU has been a happy learning.
There are 15 lakh people who are following the exact same career path. You know that. Research, have a look at the work we do on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Department. Well, moving on, to grace this event, we have a very special entity who has joined us today. Our honorable chief guest for the day is a former National Cybersecurity Coordinator at the Government of India. Sir holds an MTech and doctoral degree and has over 35 years of experience in different areas of information technology, which include different aspects of e-commerce, cybersecurity, cyber laws, and several related fields covering policies and operations. He was the first National Cybersecurity Coordinator for the Office of the Prime Minister of India. It's an absolute honor for me to invite Dr. Gulshan Rai. Dr. Gulshan Rai served in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, holding the prestigious post of Director General at Indian Computer Emergency Response Team and heading the E-Security and Cyber Law Division, STQC, and other divisions. He authored India's first cybersecurity policy and served on the Expert Committee on Data Protection, chaired by Justice B.N. Krishna. He led delegations to the United Nations, WHO, and ICCSDF, as well as heading negotiations for bilateral and multilateral agreements with more than 10 G20 countries. What a commendable career trace indeed. So thank you for joining us today and gracing this event with your presence. I request you to please say a few words and address the audience.
Thank you, Priyanka, very much. Professor Premwat, he is the guide and the kind of a motivational factor for many of us. You have read his all his achievements, but I will tell you that he is a perfect human being and a gentleman. Professor Vandana Verma Sehgal, Professor Swarn Ahuja, the Dean, Professor Gray Conti, Professor Dr. Pooja Sapra, Dr. Mehik Khurana, and my esteemed friend Shri Parthasarthi, Asia Pacific Chief Cyber Security, young scientist, young student, faculty, and everyone, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. It's really a delight for me and a pleasure to be at the NorthCap University once again. This is my second time I'm coming over here. I have been told about the achievement which I saw about 3 years ago when I visited there. I have seen, I have heard about the achievements of the university, and certainly what Priyanka presented the tour. It's a magnificent, it's a very, very impressive kind of a facility setup arrangement you have been set up, and I compliment to all of you, all the faculties, all the management, Professor Premwat, Professor Raghavendra, who is not here, each one of you, because it's collective kind of a thing, which from where you build up a excellent facility and excellent structures and resources there, which certainly Priyanka said she is a proud student, and I think all of us should feel proud for the national facility. Friends, I was very keenly listening Professor Premwat. I do remember what statement he made about the information highway. We started this concept in the 2008 planning document, the 5-year plan document, where we projected the concept of information highway. And that time, Professor Premwat will bear with me and will recall the infrastructure was so bad. I have been the DG of the Education Research Network also. That is where I met Professor Premwat. And I have seen what difficulties were there in terms of the infrastructure and particularly the networks. ARNET was the first network to bring the internet in the country as back as in 1980, 86, 87. That's what there. And actually the commercial internet came in the country in 96. But the ARNET was somewhere around 8 to 9 years ago. We brought the internet and with the help of the UNDP. So I have seen the infrastructure constraint, and we were very, very conservative when we said that we need to have a information highway of 565 megabyte. That's what 560 megabyte, and we were not able to conceptualize and think the STM 16, STN, all kind of a thing. We were not able to visualize those things there. The lambda, which you talk about 10 gigabit, today was taken to be 2.5 gigabit. That's what the definition was there in those days there. And you can see how Professor Premwat projected the kind of issues in an arena where we were talking about 565 megabit of information highway, and where we are talking about a terabit kind of a bandwidth there. We get a megabit bandwidth on our phone. We get a megabit bandwidth at our home, and everyone, if you talk about it, there's a commercial gimmicks. He will put it 100 megabit. The line is coming to you, but actually something else. But the whole point is that we are getting megabits on your systems, on your phones, mobile phone, iPad, and home. That's a scenario which we are today, and this is a matter of last 20 years. From the digital transformation, which now we are witnessing, I think this is the fourth digital transformation, if I'm not wrong. Professor Premwat will certainly bear with me, he's our senior. We have seen how the computers were done, where when I was studying there, we used to punch card. And then we have seen how the terminal kind of a thing, then we see client-server architecture, then we went on a completely distributed architecture. That is the transformation, digital transformation which we are. And the components of today's digital transformation are altogether different than what we have seen in the previous 3 digital transformation. Now, as Professor Premwat has said it, this digital transformation is altogether entirely different than what we have seen in the past. This transformation is a very good in the bring. It's an excellent kind of a transformation. When we talk about a social development, we talk about a productivity, we talk about efficiency there. Who can imagine anytime, anywhere, you can send email anytime, you can browse anything, and you can do transactions any point of a time. Okay. So that is the way it is happening today, and we are moving towards a so-called Industry 4.0. In fact, we have already moved to 4.0. If you ask Shri Parthasarathi, he will give you all stories of Industry 4.0 because his responsibility is the entire Pacific area, you can see. But this transformation is different in some sense, which Professor Premvarta said, that this transformation is equally utilized for creating a different kind of a activity, which is certainly is impacting or affecting the first part of the transformation, which I said. Same in artificial kind of intelligence, algorithm, which is the major component of this, IoT, Internet of Things, your data analytics, clouds, big data, and so-called technologies like a blockchain and the cyber security. These are the components of this transformation, and these are a multi-edge kind of a technologies which we are dealing with. It can create, as I said, a good a social development, efficiency, enhance your productivity in education there. But at the same time, we find a different kind of activity, the sum of part of which Professor Premvarta mentioned about. That's another part there. But the third angle, which is now emerging, is the geopolitics of the technology and data. Today, we feel more the have and have not. We have been talking about digital divide for quite some time, but today we feel more have and have nots there. Friends, we are in a certainly very, very challenging time, and this challenging time, we have seen nothing. We are completely in a virtual world there. I can certainly go a little bit technical in the terminology. We have seen the virtualization of the hardware, storage system virtualization. We have seen virtualization of the software. What we are entering into the another era of virtualization of the networks when we talk about the 5G or the next generation communication there. You can slice a network, you can partition a particular bandwidth there. The whole transformation what we are seeing it will go entirely different there. Now everything is becoming a 90%, 95% software control items are there. And all of you students, you pick up a algorithm from the open website there and then start amending it and doing it. Open source is what? You pick up the algorithm, amend it, modify it, and start using for different purposes. That is a factor which is creating a problem in our issues for which we have had this seminar today there. I can make the software good, further improve for the betterment. I can make the software by amending it for a different purposes there. For a negative purposes, which Professor Premvarta very nicely and eloquently described it. That's a challenge with us. We are not seeing that. The same artificial algorithm, which is a friend, which we are in deploying it, I really don't know when it becomes the enemy for me, foe for me, and what kind of a damages it may do over a period of time. We are certainly getting in a more uncertain kind of a phenomena where every device is linked together. IoTs are linked together. Couple of billion devices of IoT are existing today. I mean, and the number has gone from a 1 million to a more than a billion in India also there. Everything is connected today. Friends, we have seen incident. I don't know how many of you are tracking the kind of a scenario, international scenario. Some of you certainly would be, and I'm sure Mr. Parsarthi Shri Parsati will be able to explain when it comes tomorrow for the lecture there. Incident named solar winds there, which happened somewhere in note, which came to the picture, which came to the public in the month of November. It was happening for a couple of months. Came to the American entire the departments of the American government was deeply impacted. I don't want to use the exact word. Deeply impacted there. Shaken everything. It was something which was started by a nation state, and it was a thing which was compromised. That 3 days before, the entire Microsoft Azure was down because of certain aspects there. The WhatsApp and the Google have a frequent down there. People project, but actually it is a software kind of a configurational issues there. Those configuration issues give rise to breaches and further problem. In a connected world, it impacts the entire system there. The Azure coming down, it impacts worldwide. WhatsApp coming down, Google coming down, it impacts the worldwide. So these are the what challenges which we are entering into the virtual world. And these are going to be very, very complex. What we have seen is nothing what we are going to do. I have seen the incident for the last 15, 20 years, and I am still deeply involved in the national activity. How complex it has become in national security today, you cannot imagine there. The Rafale, which we all talk about the Rafale, or we talk about the drones there, the kind of a technology it deploys there. Today, we are not talking about one technology. We are talking about convergence of technology. That's what we are talking about, friends, there. Now, in this challenging period, there is a great responsibility on all of you. Friends, professor like Premvart or me, we can give you only wisdom. The knowledge has to come from you. Exploration has to come from you. What is more important in this challenging period is that we must be capable of understanding, and we must be capable of addressing how to solve a problem. We may not find an exact solution, but we must have a proper thinking, a constructive thinking. And at times we are getting more approaching towards a collective thinking, how to address and solve the problem. Innovation is the first thing which we need to learn in this society, in this era there. Without thinking innovation, finding a different solution, we are going to be back. The two factors, friends, are very, very important in this digital transformation. Whether you talk about a work from home, video from home, virtual medium, the defense, national security, the industrial automation, Industry 4.0, or the cyber physical system which Professor Pember dealt with. Friends, the two factors which are very important. We often talk about the people, process, and technology. But why the people is set first there? People, process, and technology. People.
Well, I think there has been some connectivity.
this a right time has happened, this incident. It was a something, not a someone created that. The glitch in the technology, it can lead to a serious cybersecurity breach, and I can enter into every system there. That's a example of the glitch there. So the two factors which are important are the people and the skill which you create yourself there. We need to have a right courses. We need to understand, and if all of a student basic three things you understand and mull over and get into the deeper. One is the Windows operating system. Windows will never go away. In the next 10 years, I don't find, though some people are trying to have their own system there. The others is the Android and Linux and that kind of a system there. And third is the network system where you get a router system or something. If we create a deep capabilities in these three areas there, we would be able to address some of the problem which we may find, whether it's a AI or is the IoT or a cyber security or a cloud or whatever kind of things there. Friends, because of the technological glitches, I don't know how long this may continue. Anyway, I've shot the time up there. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm very delighted to be here to sharing the dice with Professor Framework and to be with all of you. I really bless all of you, and I wish the conference a great success. Please remember, the skilling is an important aspect at this point of a time, and more we get skilled through such seminar and awareness, more we create awareness, it may help us to move on a right path, particularly the younger people like you. And that's what I see a great advantage, where a different expert, different minds are coming, wisdom-oriented minds are coming and trying to speak out what they feel, what their experience. This will be a very, very valuable. No one is going to teach, and no one will teach you the theory which the Professor Khanna or my other Pooja Sapraji will teach you, or Professor Framework will teach you. Okay, but these are the things which you understand aspect there. And please remember the first principle in physics, which we talk about it, horse and a cart. Initially, there will be a problem. Once you understand the phenomena, once you understand the importance, the cart and a horse move very smoothly without putting a stress on the horse. I thank you very much for inviting me on this forum, sharing some view. I did not want to scare with the incidents and what scenario which we are today. I mean, and I think you are many experts. I leave the job of scaring to all of you to that. And anyway, let us see what happens there. And I'm sure all of you will be benefiting great in this seminar from that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Practical hands-on experience can transform lives, and innovation is indeed a way to a solution-oriented life. Thank you, Gulshan Rai, sir, for emboldening our audience with your impeccable words and extraordinary insights from your absolutely remarkable career and life experiences. We thank you for giving us your precious time. Now I request Pro-Chancellor Sir, Dr. Prem Rath, to please present a memento of thanks to Dr. Gulshan Rai.
Thank you, Dr. Gulshan Rai, for your precious presence.
Thank you. Thank you.
No conference is complete without its keynote speakers. Well, who will we listen to if there's no one to speak? So today we have with us two experts from the fields of cybersecurity who shall share their thoughts and visions in the field of in their fields and embolden us with their thoughts. Dr. Gregory Conte is the co-founder and principal at Copedian, a cybersecurity training and professional service firm. Previously, he was the director of security research at INET Cybersecurity. Now, prior to INET, he served on the West Point faculty as an academy professor for more than a decade, where he founded the US Army Cyber Institute and led West Point cybersecurity research and education efforts. During his career in the Army, he served in a variety of signals, intelligence, and cybersecurity assignments, deploying to Iraq as officer in charge of the US Cyber Command's Expeditionary Cyber Support Team, as a senior advisor in the US Cyber Commanders Action Group, where he co-developed the Joint Advanced Cyber Welfare course. Sir is the author of 3 books, including On Cyber, Towards an Operation Art for Cyber Operations. He has written approximately 100 papers covering online privacy, usable security, cyber conflict, and security visualization. He has spoken on numerous security conferences, including Black Hat, DEF CON, RSA, DFWRS, Google Ideas, WWW, the NATO Conference on Cyber Conflict, and most recently, B-Sides Delhi. Sir, it's an honor for me to have you today. Thank you for giving us your precious time, and I'd request you to please say a few words and grace our audience.
Well, thank you very much. I will try and bring up some slides. I have pictures. Okay. And you can let me know if you see them or not.
Yes, sir, they're visible.
You see the slides?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, well, thanks. Thank you for the very kind introduction. It's my pleasure to be here. Good morning from New York. Early morning, but good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm honored and excited to be here. I wanted to thank the organizers and all the participants and all the distinguished speakers. This is just a great opportunity. COVID has disrupted many lives, but one small positive aspect is that we're able to have conferences and cross boundaries and have conversations. And hopefully it's going to provide I would say that you're living, step back 5, 10, 20 years and think about the future we thought we were going to have, the future that we envisioned. Did we achieve it, right? What was the future that we actually built? So we're going to hopefully reflect on that a little bit, think about that, and consider future trends. Like we start with the future that we hope to have, the future that people actually built, and then extrapolate into the future. And that leads us, I think, to our most important point, where each of us fits in, right? And whether you work in academia, industry, or government, we each have a part to play in deflecting the trajectory toward positive security as we move forward, because it's a challenge, and that's why we're all here. That's why so many people are researching and working in this area. Each of us can provide a piece of that puzzle. The talks at the conference are a great start, and we can fill in some of the pieces and continue forward. So the idea then is to think about how each of us contribute individually and collectively to improve cybersecurity. So my background was well covered. I won't bore that with you, bore you again with it. But thank you for a very kind and gracious introduction. Okay, so this is kind of the structure of the talk. The future we were promised, the future people actually built, the future we need, and solutions that can get us there. And then what are our opportunities and responsibilities to build that future? So I thought we could start off the future we were promised with the 1964 World's Fair. And We were promised things like space exploration and rocket belts, and around that time, flying cars, right? Moving forward into the dawn of the internet, we were promised things like the internet becoming the town square of the global village of tomorrow. That was Bill Gates. Stephen Hawking was quoted as, envisioned the internet like a giant brain connecting us all. Tim Berners-Lee, one of the key creators of the World Wide Web, envisioned the web as a collaborative space where we could communicate through sharing information. The rise of cryptocurrency led Elon Musk to say paper money is going away. John Perry Barlow, founder of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, saw a future that the others didn't. It was a little less optimistic. He was concerned about government involvement in cyberspace. Government should leave cyberspace alone. They have no sovereignty where we gather. Well, it turns out governments do have sovereignty over cyberspace, and it is challenging. Companies emerged, like Twitter, that wanted to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. Google wanted to organize all the world's information and make it universally available and accessible. Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg wanted to move fast and break things, and that became the mantra of Silicon Valley. Okay, so that was the future we were promised, just highlighted it. What was the future people actually built? Well, we built we built technologies without building in security. This is a Wired magazine article from 2015, where two security researchers found major vulnerabilities in entire product lines of automobiles. We've been promised a future of self-driving cars, but we find that they are vulnerable. Their sensors are vulnerable to spoofing attacks, hijacked billboards, fake stop signs, painted lines on the road. We have the President of the United States, according to the New York Times, his email was hacked, the unclassified email. I'm sure it's the same in India, but in the United States, if you want a security clearance, like a top secret clearance, you need to undergo a very rigorous background check and disclose all facets of your life. And it's a 100-page document with interviews of your neighbors and your fingerprints and findings on your behavior. And that entire database was stolen of essentially everyone with a security clearance. We found that some of the technologies that we depend upon, like Microsoft Exchange, are vulnerable. That some of the most areas that should be most secure, and this is the Nuclear Weapons Agency in the United States, was hacked. We were told not the weapons themselves, but the agency that manages them, and it led to we've seen critical infrastructure attacks succeeding across basically every country in the world. We fielded inexpensive technologies rapidly without baking in security first. And some of them can never be updated. Others, like this remote control, was reportedly updated. The firmware had to be updated 3 times in one day, a TV remote. And we're creating internet-connected technologies like toothbrushes. And everything, as was stated earlier, everything is connected to everything now. And that's a recipe. And a lot of those things are inexpensive IoT devices. You may have seen this picture on social media. It looks like a Windows 98 error message floating in the sky. It's actually a recent picture of a digital billboard in the fog. And it shows the legacy systems that exist to this day, that the older systems that we created, many of them are still around, and they were vulnerable for a decade plus. We have governments still trying to influence entire populations to take some of the most basic security measures. Like here we have the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity encouraging citizens to use shorter passwords. I'm sorry, telling them that shorter passwords are easier to hack and that they should use longer passwords. This is 2021. We found that memes can spread widely and virally on the platforms that we built, and that attackers are using automated bots to spread disinformation and misinformation. That Elon Musk is probably right that paper money is going away. And what we found that even fake, like joke currency, cryptocurrency like Dogecoin, it's actually generating like non-zero value. People are putting money into it. We see literal armies operating in cyberspace. This is the logo as an example of U.S. Army Cyber Command. The President of the United States Twitter account was hacked after a security researcher guessed the password. Apparently, he didn't read the Canadian message about longer passwords are better. We're finding that our technology isn't necessarily making us happier. That we're designing addictive technologies. Truly, there are conferences, there are books on how to create addictive technologies, literally addictive, and dark patterns that seek to, instead of user-centered design, seek to manipulate the user to accomplish the goals of the interface designer. Here, just when I was looking for this article and found it, this is the page. This is the page that came up. And I had to cut out portions of it to create a clean slide previously. And it's bracketed by giant advertisements, right? Something that would have been largely impossible in old paper newspapers. All of those network connected low-cost devices were people have attacked them and compromised them. Many had default passwords and formed, this is the global footprint of the Mirai botnet, and it was used as a giant offensive weapon. We found that the platforms that we built have destabilized democracies around the world. That some of the core technologies that make the internet function, like DNS, were built with weak threat models, and that we're still paying the price for. This was a January of this year attack where the Pearl.com domain was stolen. And as companies, we're seeing a shift from general purpose computers to proprietary ecosystems and app stores. And the app stores, despite the best efforts by the Google or Apple, are still being bypassing those security checks and being used to spread malware at scale. And that when we're online, that basically we are being tracked by all those with the power to do so to the greatest extent possible. So this is the future people are building. That many of the technologies we build are based on libraries or code that go back decades and we're just still finding vulnerabilities, and we still will find vulnerabilities. And that critical infrastructure is a target for these nation-state forces. This is a recent attack that occurred in the United States against a water treatment plant. And we're also seeing the weaponization of information combined with cyber operations. So people steal sensitive information, then use various digital platforms to share it to achieve the effects that they want on governments or on populations or on individuals. So we all have our hobbies. One of my hobbies is tracking these things. I've been doing it for 4 years. I'm up to 1,275 items. And to be honest, I've slowed down because history repeats itself and we're seeing the same problems occur every 6 to 12 months. So I'm just looking for the new, unique dystopian things that are occurring. Okay, so that kind of paints the picture of what we were promised and where we what we were promised and what people actually built. So let's look at the trends then. Like, what can we extrapolate from that as trends moving forward? Because it's from these trends that we get insight into technologies that need to be built, training that needs to occur for people, government policy and regulation that can help shape the environment for the better, and other tools. So as you look at these, think about the cybersecurity and privacy implications of each. How could they be attacked? How could they be exploited? Why was this device even created in its form? Should it have not been created at all, or in a different form? Those are the questions to ask yourself as you think about this. So just the biggest trend I see is that security is not going to be solved overnight, and that it's pretty bad out there. And it's like a house fire, right? The house is on fire right now. It's literally a war zone at times. All right, so one trend I see is that incentives will remain constant. And I think incentives underpin many of the cybersecurity problems we see today. That businesses will want to profit, so we'll see products rush to market and less potentially spent on security because it detracts currently from the bottom line, because consumers want to consume and they're not using security. They're not necessarily willing to pay double the price for more security. We see criminal groups exploiting cryptocurrency and nations defending national interests through all their levers of power, to include cyberspace operations. And the discussion previously about complexity really resonated with me. This is a picture of a data center, and we've built technology so complex it's beyond human comprehension, right? It is so massive, so complex that flaws are going to be in it that we can never find. So looking forward, I think we will continue to move fast and break things, which doesn't bode well for solving security. You may be familiar with this meme. It's a picture. People label it in different ways, but I liked it because it addressed the move fast and break things being more attractive to companies, particularly young companies, rather than thinking long-term and the technical debt that we're creating. And I really like this quote by Mitch Ratcliffe: "A computer lets you make more mistakes faster than any other invention, with the possible exception of handguns and tequila." And if we were together in person, I would ask for a show of hands for the people to see who agreed with that. Another trend is security is a constant game of one-upmanship, where we build a new technology, attackers find flaws, we build defenses, attackers find flaws, and so on, so on. And in this space, one of the things we're fighting against is our view of reality, that we're at the point now, almost at the point where we can make all but indistinguishable facsimiles of world leaders, of individuals, and make them say and do anything, layered on top of a social media platform. So researchers are trying to find automated ways to detect this, but they're always a little bit behind, right? Because in this case, the newer technologies could be coming out of basically security always lags the new technologies coming out. And we're going to see and are seeing fewer humans in the loop. So that means there's less and less human oversight of these things. I think, extending that even further, we've heard a lot about the use of artificial intelligence in defensive technologies, but I believe we're going to see more and more about artificial intelligence used in offensive technologies. And that'll be a very dangerous period when that happens. This was a DARPA, U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency competition at the DEF CON Hacker Conference. It gave us a glimpse of what AI-enabled powerful computers could do in terms of attack and defense. Elon Musk might have been right that paper money is going away, but either way, it was cryptocurrency that really enabled the business model of ransomware. And with Bitcoin reaching exceptionally high value, that it just provides fuel to the fire to enable ransomware. And it's the and Bitcoin provides this pseudo anonymity for these people to get paid. So now I thought, just to add a little structure to this, I thought it'd be useful to just kind of take a walk through different technologies that are emerging, from things that are inside our body, implants, to things we carry, things in our homes and vehicles, how we're instrumenting our communities and our regions with these technologies, and then at the national and world level, some of the implications. So implants. Here's Elon Musk talking about a young startup company he created called Neuralink that is researching how to implant computer chips inside people's brains. Now, if you take a step back and you think about how all the work we are putting into protecting our mobile devices, our desktop PCs, our server farms, imagine the implications of direct internet or network connection to human brains. So if you're a security researcher or an entrepreneur, this area is going to be huge, securing these systems. I can only imagine, right? But so anyway, people, this is going to happen. It's just a matter of time, and it will be attacked. And you might say people are not going to do that. They're not going to get chips or things implanted in their body. A recent survey said 2/3 of Western Europeans would consider augmenting their bodies. So it comes down to those incentives again. Augmented reality is another area that is emerging and will be exploited in a variety of ways. So another area to watch. It's the overlay of information onto our visual viewing field. We saw Google Glass. Facebook is considering creating it has a product in the pipeline for smart glasses. They're going to build in facial recognition into it, or at least they're thinking about it. Now, let's say Facebook is able to optimistically say that Facebook is able to make these entirely secure. There will be knockoff copies or copycat copies of this produced very cheaply, and people will buy them because they're cheaper. And imagine the implications of a device you wear, things you see being pumped to whatever server farm in whatever country with whatever level of security. It's that constant, we want to create these really cool game-changing things. At the same time, are we really thinking about the ethics and the implications? I mean, just facial recognition and glasses can as you walk down the street, or law enforcement has them. It could be game-changing in how we interact. If every person has a microphone and a camera that they wear and everything, and now our phones are in our pockets at least, right? And these will be augmented even further. We've got, there are researchers working on machines detecting emotions. So you can look through them and identify people, and you can tell who's happy and who's angry at scale. And again, this is all being pushed back to the cloud, wherever a cloud being another person's computer, for the processing. Who's securing that? Who's attacking that? We're moving toward, this is research on lie detection software using machine vision. And I believe this uses like thermal imagery to try and detect when someone is lying. Imagine that embedded in those glasses. So you know who people are, you know their emotions, and you know when they're lying. And all of that information being collected, harvested, and stored, and maybe never discarded. Virtual reality, another very parallel emerging technology with similar implications. I had a chance to work as a advisor for a venture capital fund and reviewed new companies. And one of the things that we looked for, and or that venture capitalists look for, is the data collection strategy of these companies, because the data could even be more valuable than the product itself. And here's just an example, and we're building technologies and placing network sensors in virtually every aspect of our lives. And where is that data being stored? How is it protected? Who's going to try and compromise it? What can be derived from it? How can it be combined with other data to be particularly damaging? Even more interesting, maybe, is this is from a video that was leaked from Google called The Selfish Ledger. And what I found intriguing, and it's available on YouTube, the video, and what I found intriguing about it is the idea that when there is a gap in a company, and I think they were thinking about Google, if there's a gap in their knowledge about people that they want to fill, that a company could create a custom product that is designed to appeal to the demographic or even the individual that they're trying to target. And they could create it. Here it's a bathroom scale, presumably the network collection of people's weight over time. But imagine one that just the collection of the data puts that data at risk, the privacy implications, and again, the copycat problem that people will make cheap copies of this because at half the price or a tenth of the price. And how will that be secured? Who will have access to it? All the same questions. And these are all opportunities for people in the audience to get involved, right? Robotics. You may be familiar with the Boston Dynamics robots. They do flips and things like that. But we're going to see robots more and more in our daily lives. And they are going to have their own security challenges. So yet another area to engage. And robots won't only be on the ground, they will fly. We already have them. That drones are being used for commercial purposes, personal or private purposes, as well as military purposes. And they're basically flying remote-controlled computers, maybe with weapons, right? And they will too be targets of attack, just a slightly different problem. We're doing great things with smart cities. And I think this graphic shows that the challenge, right? Like these are all the beneficial things that a smart city might offer. Open data, smart government, smart manufacturing, smart health, smart farming, smart buildings. But what does an attacker see? An attacker sees an attack surface map here that then leads them to trying to compromise these things. And ask yourself, are they truly secure? History would say no. Another trend that, again, on the weaponization of information, that information's now geopolitical implications of the theft of information using security breaches, cyber operations to then influence target audiences. That's going to continue. It's been very successful. We're seeing warfare or conflict, depends on which lawyers you're talking to, that operates below the level of the traditional level of war. And what that means is you see a lot of information warfare and cyber operations that attack systems, take information, take down systems, and it's empowered by or emboldened people to do this because of the the anonymity afforded by the internet, the difficulty of attribution, so you can't deter their activities. And when you're looking at the government level, where many solutions have to take place, that you're operating below a certain level, it's not enough to get government action. And this can go on. So you may have heard the death of 1,000 cuts. I think that's what this is, that if you do this against a target country over a decade, you're not going to get a government response necessarily, and you can seriously degrade or damage that target country. And this is not going away. It's proving very successful. We've seen cyberspace being added as a formal domain of military operations, right? That historically it's been air, land, sea, and space. Now cyberspace. And they're looking at multi-domain operations that synchronize activities across each of these planes. And consider, though, this is the same cyberspace that we're building smart cities and all the beneficial technologies that make our lives better, where we do our business. It's also a warfighting domain, formally written in doctrine. Another trend I think we'll see is balkanization. This globally connected internet may or may not continue as we move forward. We may see regional or national internets form. We're seeing at the country level, the national level, the idea of trying to influence their populations. China has their social credit system where they're trying to encourage certain behaviors and discourage certain bad behaviors. And it feeds back to the individuals and has real world implications. And every country's leadership wants to influence its population. And these are the tools, built on this insecure technology that allow it to be done. And ultimately, I think there are still a few places where the internet is not, more or less. And we're continuing to instrument the planet, and we're moving into space. This here is a balloon from Project Loon. You may be familiar with it. It was a project to bring internet to the four corners of to places that did not have it. And you may wonder, sometimes I wonder, would those people be better off without having internet due to the cybersecurity problems? And I'll wrap with the trend section with this slide. I think it came out of the Imperial College of London. They have a table of disruptive technology. And every one of these is a thing that is disruptive technology that's coming. And I think if you're looking for interesting research problems, you could examine this and look at it. It will provide ideas on each one of these has cybersecurity and privacy forensics implications. And if you're looking for forward-leaning research, you can take a look here. All right, so what are the solutions? All right, we painted like where we wanted, where we thought we were going, where we ended up, how do we get to a better place? I was very pleased to see that NorthCap the mention of a course being mandatory on ethics and professional conduct, that's game changing, because every person has to make the right ethical decisions. Sometimes, again, maybe over personal gain. It's challenging. That if you could rush a product to market and become a millionaire, would you do it? And then rationalize it by bolting on security later. Some people would make the choice to become a millionaire. Another, variant of this is, I think every student in high school and college should have some cybersecurity training that's meaningful and built in. And I think we're seeing the professional societies like ACM start down that path. But every student should have a course in technology, privacy, and security, in my humble opinion. We have to still continue to try and educate the populations. I'm not personally a fan of the 3 tips to keep your mobile device safe, because it hides the other 99 things that you actually have to do, but it's a start, right? Because we're talking at national population scale. And on a related subject, we have to find ways to help small businesses, right? Large businesses, the biggest ones, have resources. They can hire people, they can buy the right technologies, they can get their people trained, and they have a fighting chance. But medium and particularly small businesses and small government agencies have a much, much harder time. They're very vulnerable. So that's another solution. We have to fight and figure this one out. Another solution is to, convey the responsibility. This is a discussion about basically public reporting. In the United States, the state of California created a data breach notification law. And for a period of time, it seemed like the only companies that were being breached and information stolen were in California. You know why? Because California had the law. And once that law spread across the United States, we found every state in America had data breaches occurring. So we added transparency and accountability to the process. It's a start, at least. The private sector can also help, but it's hard. This is the RSA Cybersecurity Conference in San Francisco. And I assume most people have had the opportunity to be on a vendor floor of a conference. And if not, you'll soon see what I mean. I had a chance to meet an Ozzy Osbourne, the rock star impersonator on the. It's kind of circus-like at the same time as technical. But it's challenging because there are so many companies, many, with strong marketing departments saying that they solve, almost all your cybersecurity problems. In reality, the best ones solve part of it. Some of them just don't really solve anything, and it's very hard to distinguish. And I've got friends that are CISOs of major companies, and they tell me that from this sea, it is very, very hard to find the right technologies based on their limited budgets. It's really hard. But the solution, the private sector, getting that entrepreneurial innovation going, has to be part of the problem. Governments can't do it all. We have to have this. It's not a perfect solution. You may be familiar with the idea of carrots and sticks in terms of incentives and disincentives. We have to really think about the incentives involved. And a lot of this, I think, will come from government to incentivize companies and individuals to be responsible in what they do. That if they field an insecure product, maybe they should be accountable rather than immune. And I think the most important thing is teamwork, that we have to work together and build teams, that we can't do this in isolation. That's why I was really impressed to see the strong, just this conference alone brought together so many different communities, and I added a few others that I think are relevant and related here, but it brought together many different communities, all with different views, all with different expertise and access to data. And together, crossing those boundaries makes those individual groups the sum greater than the parts. And it isn't just those like non-government groups. The government has a role too, because the public and private sides of this, neither side can do it alone. They have that, in my opinion, they have to work together, cross those boundaries, respect people's privacy and civil liberties, but at the same time, find meaningful ways to collaborate and defend the cities, nations, critical infrastructure sectors. It's a necessary requirement. I was very impressed with the creation of New York City Cyber Command as an example, and the work of national level and regional CERTs, bringing together all the countries or components inside a country or across a region. The NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence supports all of NATO. When I was at the Army Cyber Institute, we had a mandate to work outside of government with groups like New York City, and helped organize city-level cybersecurity exercises in conjunction with leaders in New York City. Then you start getting to the really useful solutions. And I'm really intrigued by the idea of collective defense. If you think of, and I heard collective, word, several speakers, I believe, mentioned collective. And because we can't do this alone. If we defend as individuals or in corporate silos, we will fall. We are stronger together. So what are the things we can do to bring people together and still ensure competitiveness in the business sector and the rights of citizens when government and the private sector collaborate? But we have to find ways, and there are tools. There are things like shared exercises, anonymized threat data, alongside high-speed information sharing, mutual support agreements, and creating tools that detect the latest form of malware and sharing them with the community. They're all part of collective defense, and I think this is our future. We have to figure this out. I think we need to understand our attack surface. In a much richer, more detailed way, what this graphic depicts is Acme Corporation as a node in a graph of other organizations. So in those other organizations, some of them, Acme Corporation, it can control. Maybe it's a data center that's remotely located that they can fully control. Maybe it's shared control, like a cloud service. Other regions, others you can't control, but they can affect you if the link goes down, and so on. But the idea is to map this out, understand these regions and the links between them, and then you can put proper security controls in place, minimize your attack surface. But we have to understand the vulnerability exposure and the connectivity at a much richer level. And I think part of it is not thinking in just one dimension, being the network and an IP address. These organizations are connected across multiple levels. Humans are definitely involved in cybersecurity. Personas are a layer. The network layer, the physical layer, the real world underneath it. All of that combined gives different. The cyberspace doesn't exist as zeros and ones on a IP network, and the connectivity doesn't exist only same layer to same layer. It can cross layers. So we have to think about attack surfaces much more richly than we do now. leadership is one of the most important things. Leadership in industry, leadership in government. And because that's how we need strong leaders who have the background to create the roadmaps. We talked about puzzle pieces. It would be nice if, and we're trying, but I think we need to do more in creating roadmaps that really, if we're going to truly address cybersecurity, we need a master plan. And I don't know that anyone on the planet really has that yet. And we have to work together to create that. Everyone is, contributing parts of it. So it'd be nice to be able to fit them into the puzzle rather than portions of the puzzle. And that strong leadership at the national level leads to national cyber strategies. That we have to have them. In the United States, I'm heartened because we've kind of had an off-again, on-again relationship with strong leadership in cybersecurity at the national level. And I think this time, since last few months, the best team I've ever seen has taken over, and that's promising. And we need that in all countries, and that can be game-changing. The work, solid scholarly work, is necessary. We need to dig deeply into problems that we normally couldn't solve in a short period of time. You need that long-term focus. But it needs to be tied with the practitioner community, the people actually doing the real-world operations. Both sides need to respect each other, work together, share information, collaborate, and because both holds an important key to the solution. I think we need to look at automated response, that human time and attention is precious. So we have to find ways to automate everything that we can, use human time and attention to address those very specific problems that humans are best at, design systems that capture that human insight, then offload it to the machine so that the machines can handle it in the future, and then the human can move on to the next thing that plays to the human strengths, and then we automate it, and that loop continues. We need accountability, as I mentioned earlier. In individual use, in employees, in the things that we build, government organizations need to be held accountable. Leaders need to be held accountable for cybersecurity. It has to be part of the metrics we use to determine success. So, in conclusion, wrapping this up, I tried to take us from where we were, and where we started, what we had hoped for, what people built, some of the trends, some of the solutions. I think, though, the most important solution is each of us, you, to take responsibility, to find those important problems. We're going to see people who worked hard to do that at the conference, and together we can move, forward to the future that we want. So, with that, I thank you for your time and your attention and the opportunity to give this talk. Thanks.
Sir has detailed today, and it concludes on the fact that everything is connected to everything. Thank you, Greg, sir, for all the insights on a beautiful keynote session that you've shared with us today. Now I request Dean Sir, Professor Swarn Ahuja, to please present the memento of thanks to Dr. Gregory Conti. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us all the way from New York. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you.
Now, moving on, we have our next keynote speaker with us today. Miss Vandana Sehgal is a security solutions architect at IBM India Software Labs. She is a member of the OWASP Global Boards of Directors. She has experience ranging from application security to infrastructure and now dealing with product security. She's also worked in various communities towards diversity initiatives, InfoSec Girls and WOSEC. She has been the keynote speaker and trainer at various public events, including Global OWASP AppSec event, Black Hat event, and regional events like B-Sides events in India, for which I think even Greg Sir was a part of. Ma'am is a member of the Black Hat Asia Review Board, as well as multiple other conferences, including Grace Hopper India, AWASP, AppSec USA, to name a few. She is also one of the organizers of B-Sides India. She has been the recipient of multiple prestigious awards like Cybersecurity Woman of the Year Award 2020 by CyberSec Awards, Application Security Influencer 2020 by White Source, Global Cybersecurity Influencer among IFSec Global's top influencers in security and fire category for 2019, Cybersecurity Women of the Year Award by Women Cyber Jitsu Society in the category of Secure Coder. She's also been listed as one of the top women leaders in the field of technology and cybersecurity in India by InstaSafe. In a nutshell, a powerful boss lady. Thank you, ma'am, for your precious time today, and thank you for joining us to deliver your keynote session. We're really looking forward to it. And now I request ma'am to please take over.
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind introduction, and I'm really glad to be part of the conference and speaking with all of you and the esteemed keynote speakers and the faculty. I'm really glad to be part of it. Let me share my screen. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So I'm not going to speak about myself. I'll straight get into the topic. So I'm going to be speaking about application security, how exactly the application security space is shaping up people's career, and if you are a person who wants to switch the career from different fields to application security, how exactly you can do that. So here, the history exactly how it started, how exactly it's catering to the people and the world is. So Netscape in 1994 started with the first version of HTTPS, like they created HTTPS. And then 1999, TLS came into picture. Now, what is TLS? TLS is transport layer security. So when you go to any of the website, so type facebook.com on your browser, gmail.com, or the website of the college itself, there will be a lock symbol. So the lock symbol is basically an SSL certificate, and there is a connection that's getting established with the server. So making sure that, let's say if there's a facebook.com that you open and there is a lock symbol, so it specifies that the web application is secure in a very basic means. Now, when you request for the certificates, when you provide the SSL connection, it has to have different versions. Like TLS 1.1, 1.0 was the old one, not the oldest, but old one. And before that, SSL v3 was used, SSL v2 was used. But we are talking about version 1.3 right now. So in 2006, 1.1 came into picture. 2008, 1.2 came into picture. And then SSL Labs actually released how exactly people can verify whether the website is secure or not. And then HSTS came into picture. People started talking about secrecy in the modern browsers that we have, like Chrome, Firefox, and now people talk about like how exactly we can secure our communication. But at the same time, I don't want people to track my communication. Like I'm using DuckDuckGo, or I'm using a Chrome like incognito mode, or Firefox also has a incognito browser. So people have started talking about that. So all of these grow over the years, and now CA authorities have become mandatory, like certificate authorities, which provide the certificate to the people, to the organizations who have a website. Like I have a website that's on HTTPS. There is a certificate authority that has provided me the certificate. Similarly, all the websites have started using it, and now 1.3 is sort of mandatory on all the websites. Now, all of that, when it happened for the web applications because they are the forefront for any user, for anyone. Like I want to go on the internet, what do? Like I have seen people, like the very basic layman, they go to google.com and then they search for the web applications. We know the website URL, so we just directly type it, but there are people who do it. So it has to be done with a pretty transition wherein the websites are secure and people get to know, okay, I am making a transaction, checking the website on a secure channel. Think about, you have a website and you are paying some money to someone, but that's insecure, and somebody else gets your username and password. What will they do? They will log in with that, and what's next? They will be transferring your money, they'll be managing your account. Would you like that? No. And if we talk about banks, if we talk about retail, they are becoming more and more stringent about security. So it all starts with the basics of it, like having a proper secure certificate. Now, how exactly secure testing started? Like why people starting talking about, like, we need to have security, we need to have people talking about, okay, we need this, we need that, and we want our applications to be secure. So it all started in different years, and people have started to become more aware about, okay, this is what we need, this is has to be there. So when I talk about security testing from my perspective, for me, it all started wherein I was told that you have to do application security testing. And I was like, where exactly I should start? I have no clue. Then they told me, okay, these are some articles, read through them. This is one of the testing guide, you should read about it. So my mentor gave me OWASP testing guide to start off. But then, was it the time when the security testing was getting started? No, it started long back, where the first pen testing happened in 1938 with the tool Bombi, and then over the years, people started doing a bit of work around security testing, and especially if I talk about defense, they do a huge or a rigorous testing around application security. And there are many tools that have come up now. Now, what I have seen, college students, even not college students, school students are aware about security, and they are creating some tools using Python or different languages. They are aware about it. And if we see the trend, like in the past, people were doing it like very calmly. Okay, this thing is there, let's do it. But now the kind of attacks that we are seeing, the way people are aware about security testing, we need advanced tools. We need to make sure that we are on toes around cybersecurity testing. And this is not just needed for organizations because they are getting breached, but it is also needed for colleges. It is also needed for individuals, for anyone who is there on the internet, who has a website on the internet. Now, before I move on to the next slide, I want to ask one question to Mehak ma'am. Do you see that my screen is flickering? Mehak ma'am, do you see my screen?
It looks good.
It looks good?
Fine. At least in New York.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah. So now, I have told you that, okay, there is an HTTPS history. There is security testing. But how do you even start off with it? like what you all do. So if I talk from my perspective, what an AppSec analyst does, because in my different profiles as an AppSec engineer, AppSec analyst, or AppSec person, it has been given me different arenas. Like cybersecurity is one area which is so wide. And Greg was touching some of the aspects of it, and he was showcasing the different transitions. Now, if I speak about vendor management or vendor assessment life cycle, so here a lot of organizations, or I would say most of the organizations, onboard vendors in one form or the other. They could be in the form of getting a payroll set up. Somebody wants to use some tool in the organization, and not just organization but colleges use a lot of tools. Right now we are using Teams. So how secure is Teams for especially having this conference? So that those are the things which play a very important role in application security. And people say, no, hacking an application is just application security. No, that's not just application security. I have done the web application hacking and produce the reports to the clients, but then that was not it. When I started getting involved in the whole process, I realized that defining the testing methodology, making sure that we understand the application well, write the documents, and do the document reviews. Those are also design reviews are also important. Those are also part of the application security. And apart from that, documenting that is equally important. So there are people who are just doing the report writing for application security or pen testing. So that's also part of it. And if I'll start from the beginning, like when we talk about SDLC or secure SDLC, which is now moving on to DevOps, DevSecOps. So it all starts with architecture, architects designing the whole infrastructure, whole process. Okay, this is how application will be built. This is how exactly it will be looking on the production or on the internet. So they design it, and when they design it, a security person, an application security person comes into picture, and they say, okay, these are the security aspects that should be there. Like it has to be on HTTPS. Would you use any website which is on HTTPS? I wouldn't want to use it. I don't want to lose my data. I'm very sure on that. I want to have a secure communication. So in layman terms, if I have to say, if I'm speaking to Mehak ma'am or Greg, and I am telling them something and somebody else is listening, would I be comfortable? No. Similarly, that's when we want to have HTTPS. And apart from that, when we are doing the pen testing or application security testing, we do look at the code review perspective, like how secure is our code, and how exactly we can modify the changes in the code so that it is secure. And now when software is eating, open source software is eating the whole internet, because a lot of applications or most of the applications are using open source components, so it becomes evident that we check them as well. Or the breaches which have happened because of open source components will keep happening. Whose mistake is that? I would say it's no one's mistake, but it's everyone's responsibility to take care of the code which is there within the application. People are contributing to the open source in their free times, or they are spending their valuable time on the open source because they want to help the community grow. But then it becomes our responsibility to update it on time and bridge those gaps which are there. And not just that, we have to comply with the compliances which are there, like GDPR, CCPA, all those things. So we need to have a plan for it. And different organizations define roles in a different way. So people say we do static application security testing with the code. We do the dynamic application security testing with the live application, or with the application which looks exactly in the same way, or the way it should look on the internet. So testing that. And Now containers are becoming the thing where organizations are hosting using containers for their applications, because it's easy to use, easy to spin up, easy to discard. If we don't update those containers, are we in trouble? Absolutely, we are in trouble. So we have to have the measures wherein we are documenting each and everything. That's also part of the whole process. And there has to be a plan. This is how it's going to go. And this is how it's going to be upgraded. These are the tools that we would be using. These are the components that we will be using. And what do you need to launch? Like if an organization wants to launch an AppSec program, or somebody wants to use it as a platform for their career, if you are a person who's a problem solver, this is the field for you. People say that you need to have a software development knowledge. No, you don't need to have. Remember that you don't need to have. I know bits and pieces of development. I know how to code in different languages, but I am not a good coder. I accept it that I'm not a good coder. If needed, I do bits and pieces here, write some integrations, but I am not a coder. So if you are not a coder, but you want to switch your career to application security because it interests you a lot, so please be, and make sure that you pick up the tools, the processes, the documents which are available online, open source. People are sharing their knowledge. And now when we are in a kind of a situation where we are logging in remote, and we all are connected right now also remotely, so why can't we go ahead and just learn via different conferences which are there? And right now at this conference also, we are learning different things from different mentors. And so people say that there has to be a different minimum education requirement to be part of application security or cyber security in general. No. When I say students, I know a student who's just 13 years old. Like when I was a 13-year-old, I had no clue where exactly my career would head or what will I do, except that I wanted to pursue science, and I took bio and maths together, biology and maths together, because I wanted to take it. But then now people are more aware that this is what I want to do. I know people from psychology taking up application security or cyber security. Similarly, there are people who are from law background. If I talk about my background, I've done MBA. Now I'm doing cyber law, and I call myself that I'm really associated with cybersecurity. So there's no set parameter that okay, you need to do that. But still, if you have a technical background or technical degree, it will help you. There's no way that it's going to leave you. So I read a lot of networking books in my college time. So that helped me a lot while I was working on the network security projects. So knowledge is a power which you can use it anywhere. But here, you don't need to just have the technical degree. That's what I say. But if you have it, it's going to be a bonus for you. And so a lot of people come up to me and say that the organizations are asking experience. Not every organization is asking for you to have an experience in this field. No, they're hiring freshers, they're hiring people from different backgrounds. Like I know a lot of people who are professors, they have transitioned to this field. They've joined this field because this is one area wherein you can experiment with anything and everyone, like anything and everything, I would say. Another important aspect which I felt being in this field is that you can always be a differentiator. You can make a difference in any way. And are there any risk in this job? Like knowledge from the colleges, from schools, they never leave you. So this profile will never leave you. Like there's a dearth of openings, like I would say, of professionals. There's a dearth of professionals here. So anyone who would want to be part of this field is always welcomed. There's so much openings. It's just that we don't have the people who wants to join. And if you have a misconception that it's so dynamic and I cannot join, no, you can join it any day. It's just that if you have the right mentors, you can blossom in this field. And there are people who actually are connected in this field, and they are ready to share all the information that they have. That's one good thing about this field. And if I talk about certifications, I've listed some of the certifications here, but let me be very open. They're just like a gate wall or a hope where you just pass on something, or it's like a stopper for your gate check to get into a job, or to get into a resume evaluation. Like if I say that I'm not writing any certifications, but I have an experience, they might not check it. But there are some people like HR, they don't have much of information around exactly if the person has knowledge or not. So they always look for the certification. But you cannot be judged on the certifications. I know people who have founded security companies who don't have any certification. So if you don't have a certification but you have a knowledge, just write it down on your resume that this is what you know. But you don't need to have certification. But these are some certifications which are specific to application security. So I've written them down them here, and especially around cloud security, because that's something which is picking up big time. And there are different career paths that you can choose. Like I started off as a network security analyst or an engineer, and then became an application security engineer, application security lead, application security manager. But when that transition happened, I thought, I want to be an individual contributor. I want to contribute towards wherein I can innovate things. I just don't want to be a manager right now. So I became an architect. So it all depends what you want to do. And at the same time, there are my friends who want to explore the area of risk management, understanding what will be the risk for an application, for the organization, if something happens, or if there is a vulnerability that comes into picture. So you can pick and choose what you want to do. So even if you have soft skills, you can be part of it. You can help in some way or the other in this area, and especially around application security or information security. But there is one important aspect that's needed. So before I get into it, there's one thing I want to tell, that I'm not a big fan of too much of text, but I wanted to like, rather than speaking, I wanted to have the content here. Like there's so many things that is touching the lives of people, helping in cyber security and application securities. Good understanding of software development, understanding that okay, this is how it goes, but you don't need to have a developer background. If you are good with technology, if you love technology, play around with it, yes, it's going to be amazing. Because cybersecurity, you have it on hands, like phones. I'm sure you have a password or a pattern on phone. It starts with that. Now I have an app locker for my apps. There are some apps where I have it. And then again, when I use my thumbprint, after that also, for every transaction, I have a PIN or a passcode or a passphrase. So for that, there's like a whole process that goes on. And another important aspect is that you need to be a team player. Like I'll give you an example of hackers, not the good hackers, but the bad hackers, what I have seen. So hackers, I always use in a positive way, because we all are hackers. We are part of cybersecurity. We are securing the organizations and doing the ethical hacking in some way or the other. So what they do is, if they find something, they check what the other person has done. Can they take help in replicating or making it like a chain from one finding something, like let's say they find your passwords, they get into your account, but what else can be done? Can they access somebody else's account from your account, like chaining it? Let's say if they get your like my account, but can they get the administrator account? Can they escalate the privileges? So chaining those vulnerabilities. So for that, you need help sometimes. So teamwork and documentation of your vulnerabilities is equally important. And another important aspect is never go ahead and like start hacking anyone's applications or start bombarding things on the applications. There are platforms which are available where you can test it out. There are platforms which are available for vulnerable web applications. If you want to test your skills, if you want to get your hands dirty, there is code available which is vulnerable code. So there is one OWASP project which I really love is OWASP Security Knowledge Framework, which is like giving you hands-on and you can play around with it and it can help you kickstart your career. And as a developer, even as a developer, that can help you. And it's the whole framework that I've been speaking about. Gather the requirements, do the threat modeling. Now, what is threat modeling? Requirements gathering, I understand. Okay, for an application, you're asking, okay, these are the requirements that I should be gathering. Now, what is threat modeling? Threat modeling is something that you understand the threats for your application in the very, very basic terms, or understand if something happens to my applications, something happened to my all applications or one application, two applications, how much would be the impact on the application, on the organization, on the users, how many users would be impacted. So that's very, very important. There have been applications which got breached and they had no clue how many users were impacted. They were just evaluating, analyzing, but they didn't come to a conclusion. Then source code review. Now, software composition analysis, as I mentioned, is becoming key area where organizations are concentrating on, like third-party libraries that we use. So I was working on my application and I downloaded a lot of libraries from third party. Now, if I don't update them, will I be vulnerable? Absolutely. I have downloaded it from internet and I have not updated. Or for example, I use WordPress, but I don't update it. And something happened to my website. Somebody brings it down. Who's accountable for it? Should I blame WordPress for it, or should I blame anyone else? No, I have to be responsible for my application. That's how organizations are responsible for the data that is there. Then doing the vulnerability testing, like the actual testing on the applications or the dev applications or operational applications which are there in the testing places where the applications are tested. And then if you're doing everything, but you're not documenting it, you are not documenting the defects, the bugs, oh, it's as good as not doing anything. And at the same time, you need defensive controls, and especially if you're a student and you are listening, all of this is available to you. There are so many open source platforms from where you can learn. If you like, I'm part of OWASP, so I preach a lot about OWASP. So OWASP has so many open source tools which can be helpful for you to kickstart your knowledge around this area. And you can run your own GitHub account, you can run your GitLab account, you can actually do everything using the open source tools. You just need to take the inputs from the knowledge that is available online. There are a lot of resources which are there, which people are documenting. Like if I get to know something new, I always document it. I always share it with people so that they can learn from it. And through that this community is so much around information sharing. So what are the key goals when we talk about AppSec pipelines? So one important aspect is automation. So automation is the key to it. So if you know how to help around getting things automated, trust me, it's going to really, really help. So again, it brings an angle of developing things. So you might want to do that. And then another important aspect is that the flow in the whole pipeline, AppSec pipeline. So we say AppSec pipeline because it goes in phases. And now people have started embedding security in the earlier phases. And one important or a great aspect about application security is that it keeps you awake. It keeps you updated that, okay, this something could go wrong. This is here you can do things. This is here you can measure the metrics that, okay, this is how exactly my application would look like. So I'll tell you, 3 days back, my website went down. Now I checked back and I realized there was some update that I did and I brought down my website. So one important aspect around that was that I should test my application in the dev phase or locally. So I've set up my local instance of the application. So if I update anything, I make sure that I check it on the local system. So there is one aspect that I always say to the people who are working in this area is that there should not be any friction between different teams. Understand each and every aspect of it, who's doing what in this area, so that you have a broader knowledge of it. We can't know anything and everything, but still we can have visibility on anything and everything. That's the key to it. So now security testing has been integrated with GitHub, Jenkins, Maven, and so many other platforms, which is helping in automating. And then there are so many tools which are available which can help. People say that it's still expensive. It is expensive, but there are people who can help in getting this, like college students, and understanding that compliance is also growing test driver for it. We need to have compliance. Think about your data is part of an application or part of a bank, and that gets breached, and your data is everywhere. Would you like it? No. And that's how security testing is important, and it's everywhere. And as I said, that I preach about OWASP and say about like joining OWASP. So there are so many chapters which are around the globe. There are chapters in Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, in India. Huge set of people which is there, which is actually making it a community. And AppSec is for everyone, not for me, not for everyone, not for anyone, but for everyone. So Greg is in New York, so there is a chapter in New York as well. And if you are at a place where there is no chapter, you can set up one wherein you can spread knowledge. And you don't need to be just an application security person. But if you are leading a chapter, you can get the knowledge around hosting the sessions. So I have learned a lot about car hacking, about different IoT aspects, in ICS devices which are there. So from these platforms, so join a community, not just OWASP, but any community. Null community is there. And in 2020, if you go to transparent site report, transparencyreport.google.com, so it specifies that you need to be on HTTPS. They can review your application, and they enforce that you need to be on HTTPS. So especially if I talk about Google, what they have done is that they have enforced you need to use HTTPS or they will not give you a good ranking. And as for organization, they need to have a ranking on the search engines, which is one great initiative towards securing the AppSec. And how exactly it looks like, people are talking about blockchain, people are talking about hardware-based authentication, people are talking about languages which are different and they need to be secured, or frameworks. And then serverless security for cloud native, like cloud is the big thing that is coming up, that is helping the organization coming up. For startups, it's becoming the key. The smart contracts, they are helping control the infrastructure. AppSec is critical for adaptive intelligence. Like we need AI with the cyber security, so that we have analyzed the infra, the data that is coming through, the attacks that might come through, and they are getting detected on time, or even before that if there's something which is going on. Architectures, HTTPS reaches 100% of the internet, and then there's different CA models which are there, which are centralized, so that we can check the application, and sanitization of data, so that the hacking attempts can be stopped. Now, if I talk about books, these are two books which are very close to my heart. And if I talk about Phoenix Project, this one book I've read 3 times. Like this one book which really helps me in application security, DevOps world. And it's amazingly written. So if you want to check that out. So learn about software security, become a person who's familiar with it, volunteer at different platforms so that you can be part of it. Join any community that interests you a lot, or start a one. And there are a lot of events which are happening around you. Join them. If you feel that there are places which you, how exactly it will be spinning off. So just reach out to us. We are there to help you out. And there are different news platforms which are there. So keep yourself updated with them. It's very, very important to know about the whereabouts. You can reach me anytime on my Twitter handle or my LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you around application security or in general cyber security. So lately I've been doing a lot around retrospect around like what exactly I'm good at. Like after 16 years, I would say that I like application security, DevOps, DevSecOps, but I can speak about anything in cyber security because this is something which interests me a lot. So I am a specialist, but not a specialist, but a generalist, what people say. So similarly, if you are a developer, if you are a student, if you are a professor or any field, you can be part of this field. This is one field which welcomes everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for such wonderful insights on your career and all the wonderful things that you've done and how you're from MBA to cyber security law. It's really commendable. So thanks a lot, ma'am, for joining us today. Now I'd request Head of Department Computer Science, Dr. Kavita Khanna, ma'am, to please present the memento of thanks to Ms. Vandana Sehgal.
Thank you, Vandana ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think you have summarized the entire journey of yours and the entire hard work that you have put in and summed it up for our students. All of us would be benefited a lot out of this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm really honored to be part of the platform and connecting with you all.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Well, that was the end from our side for our keynote speakers. So now I'd request again Dr. Kavita Khanna to please come and address the audience and deliver a vote of thanks.
Thanks, Priyanshi. Honorable Chief Guest Dr. Gulshan Rai, our esteemed keynote speakers Dr. Greg Conti, Mrs. Vandana Verma Sehgal, Sri Partha Sarthi, and that's so kind of him that he's joined us in the inaugural session today. Then Pro-Chancellor Professor Prem Vart, Dean Academics Professor Swarna Ahuja, all the delegates, my dear faculty colleagues and my dear students, a very good afternoon to one and all present in the session. At this juncture, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our chief guest, Dr. Gulshan Rai, for sparing out his time from such a busy schedule for us. Thank you so much, sir, for being present with us today. And yes, we definitely would try to get the knowledge from the stewards like you and Professor Premrat and all others that have been sharing their knowledge. And we would definitely try to apply it to the benefit of the society. I would also like to thank Dr. Greg Conti and Mrs. Vandana Verma Sehgal for delivering the keynote address and helping us know the key insights of the area. And guiding our students into the various opportunities that are at hand, various options they can take for, and multiple paths which are available in the domain of cybersecurity. Thank you so much for culminating your entire knowledge and sharing that entire journey of yours in such a short span of time and guiding all of us through this. Thank you. Again, it would be incomplete if I don't thank enough our governing body members, our Pro-Chancellor, Professor Premrat, our Vice-Chancellor, Professor H.B. Raghvendra, Dean Academics, Professor Swarna Ahuja, who have always, all of them have always been supporting us. A special applaud for the convener, Dr. Mehak Khurana, co-convener, Dr. Pooja Sapra, our cybersecurity lead, Dr. Prachi Alawat, and the entire organizing committee who has been involved, and the faculty members and the students from CSE department for their hard work, commitment, planning and coordinating this event. And last but not the least, I would also like to acknowledge the efforts and hard work of all the delegates who have sent us such a good quality of papers and contributed in making this conference a great success. In closing, I would encourage all the delegates to participate actively in the interesting discussions over the next 2 days, and I wish everyone a successful and fruitful conference. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Moving on, ICCSDF 2021 is a two-day conference, as ma'am already mentioned, the 3rd of April, moving on to the 4th of April. So tomorrow, we will be joined by two more eminent keynote speakers, Mr. Santosh Khatsare, cyber forensics experts at CERT, Government of India, and Mr. Shri Parthasarthi, leader South Asia, Cyber and Strategy Services, APAC, Cyber Innovation at Deloitte. So I hope to see you. I hope you guys join us tomorrow as well. We have a feedback link that is floating in the chat box below. Please tell us how you like the conference, if there's any suggestion you'd like to make, if there's anything you'd like to say about the entire event, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And well, now we will break out for paper